Welcome this evening. You have your hosts of the Roundtable Talk. We try to hop on randomly, seem like, but try to hop on every Thursday. Uh,
And we're gonna make it every Thursday from now on. Every
I
first
mean,
Thursday we're gonna try to make it. We need to have
yeah, we try,
yeah.
but there are certain things like
Yep.
holidays and other
Yeah,
things
right
that,
there. Yeah,
right.
I got it.
But yeah, this Thursday we on, and of course
Right.
we got a lot of things that has happened in our news since our last time coming on, Tony. But we definitely, definitely want to focus on some of the most recent things and things that have we've been covering for the duration of the show. Uh,
Okay.
so I definitely want to welcome all of our listeners, watchers, viewers. Please share with your family, your friends, and just as the caption says below, pull up a table, let's talk about it. So tonight, of course, I try to cover some national attentions that we need to focus on, as well as some state things that we need to recognize or be um, cognizant of, as well as some county and some city things that discussions from the community and things that our community needs to be focused on as well. So without further ado, I want to start with the last election that we had. I know a lot of our uh, illustrious neighbors and residents of Jefferson County, um, Texas, was able to participate in the latest uh, constitutional elections, as well as some of the city charter uh, elections that happened just past recently as well. So I kind of wanted to Tony go over some of those constitutional amendments that happened on November 7th. Um, were you able to participate in the election, Tony?
Oh yeah, just a little bit. I been out of town quite a bit. 80% of my time I've been out of town. And now that I'm back home in Beaumont for a good while, so that's going to get us back going again. So we're going to get involved in a lot of other things that's going on. Also, we're going to get ready for next year election as well.
Yes.
We've got some county seats available that's up. We've got candidates.
Absolutely.
We've got a whole lot of things going on. So we need to make sure that we are stay on top of what's going on in our area in Southeast Texas, not just
Exactly.
Beaumont, but just Southeast Texas. And I want to hear from
Exactly.
you. I want to hear from everybody from. Well, not this, is not my show, but I just want to hear everybody from. I want to hear from everyone that who listens or watches us at times to get involved. You can shoot us a comment on our comment board. It will show up on the screen,
Absolutely.
and we'll keep the show live with you and keep you involved. But we want to hear from you too, your comments. We want to know what you want to talk about. We want to know what's going on in our area at all times. So we can't keep it all going. So we need your help.
Right.
That's every first Thursday is every first Thursday of each month is a round table talk with Chris Jones, and of course, Announcer's Power will be back live on Sundays evenings starting first of December. So get ready, folks. It's the holiday season. Let's get it going. Chris, I made a little something here, and I'm gonna pop it up here. Maybe we can talk about this today.
All right.
How about that?
Hey, man, I like the way that sounds. I like the way that
I
sounds.
want to, yeah, the videotape release of Christopher Shaw from the Jefferson
I like the
County,
way that sounds.
yeah, the Jefferson County Sheriff Department released the tape. I happened to see the tape
Uh,
on yesterday. I
was
watched it
it was it
yesterday.
the entire hour and something long tape or recording, or was it the edited, preconceived notion that, to me, um, they wanted the community to see? They wanted to me, the news wanted to create a narrative, and
Hmm.
they only showed a bit of the entire video. You know what I'm saying? Where it wasn't just that. You know what I'm saying? And you couldn't tell body language or how the altercation started
Yeah.
or anything. That's the only thing that they showed, and I thought that that was biased and it created a narrative, right?
Right. Right.
So shame on those that released it with a snippet of what happened to create that narrative.
Well, question. What I'm going to ask this question, and not really ask the question, but I'm going to make this statement. And I understand the chief secretary is trying to protect, support his officers. Good enough.
I mean,
But let me finish this conversation. But how can you put that much force in taking a man down when he's handcuffed from behind? Now, tell me how, if you put your hands behind your back, just pretend that you got both your hands behind your back, you can't move. So, what threat can this man do without just kicking on his feet? So to throw that man down on the floor like that, that was too much. That was
well,
excessive force.
well,
I don't
Tony,
care what it look at. I don't care how
it
you
is
see it.
exactly excessive force. But I was on a podcast with a few brothers, the 3200 podcast, and they're from Beaumont as well. And I definitely enjoyed having that conversation with them. I think I enjoyed it even more so because we are military, a prior service military, right? And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, there are some things and some trainings that that comes associated or affiliated with being a military, especially if you have certain specifications or qualifications or accolades or whatever. But I definitely wanted to let them know that I greatly appreciated being on their podcast. But one of the things we mentioned, Tony, was, especially reading body language, you can tell that from the initial start of the video that there was, tension in the body language of the officer before Christopher Shaw was removed from the vehicle, even after Christopher Shaw got out of the vehicle, before they began to tussle. Um, you know, you just saw it,
Mm-hmm.
and you just knew that there was something that happened previous to them pulling up into the county parking lot for booking, right?
Right.
Um, Another one of the things that we mentioned was um, after the three or four officers, correction officers actually, of Jefferson County Correctional Facility had Mr. Shaw in their custody, we were trying to figure out how did he end up, the officer, how did he end up with Christopher Shaw back in his hands? Especially if the correction officers are on intake or trained and certified to an extent to deal with combative intake individuals. The only
Mm-hmm.
thing the officer at that particular time, after Mr. Shaw was inside of those walls and on that facility, was allow Jefferson County jurisdiction to now take over,
Right.
and Mr. Officer whatever didn't allow that. And for our chief to say that he supported the actions of our officers, then that goes to me. And we say he's a good guy. I mean, he's good to me. I've never ran into Chief anything physical, as far as like it has to go with me. We did have some verbal confrontation at Antioch. Well, I wouldn't say verbal confrontation, but it was a verbal debate at Antioch. Especially when he called me a liar after pointing some certain things out, to the community. This was at the time, Tony, of not in my city. When the assault of officers, peace officers, to the citizens was happening at its all time high. And officers were killing individuals who look like you and I, regardless to status, status, economic, socioeconomic status. We were still getting killed, you know, by the hand of officers, whether we were armed or unarmed, whether we were combative or not combative, whether we, what they say, um, follow the rule or don't resist. We still saw individuals that looked like us end up dead or in situations like Mr. Shaw, or even hidden in prisons for that their families don't even know where they are. So the video just shows a snippet of the criminality of Beaumont police officer and the support that he got by afterwards filing a fallacious charge of assault to a peace officer so he could cover his ass.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's obvious. And like you said, Tony, we on my show today, so I'm about to say it all. If you ask me, I'm about to say a lot, and it might piss some people off, but that's pretty much what our community needs. Is to be pissed off and
Mm-hmm.
and activated. But one of the things I said that was one of the questions that was asked, Tony, was how is there not a community outcry after the release of this video? And one of the things I said is they're in a community that's been ostracized and beat over the head with these types of practices over and over and over again, where there's no consequence to the offender, which in this case and several times over is a Beaumont police officer or
Right.
an officer, a police officer within the boundaries or the jurisdiction of Jefferson County.
Right.
Trayvon Hull is another individual whose murder at the hand of police officers that is in question in our community.
Right.
And so if we see again a narrative that the news media will put out and over an hour long tape or hour long recording, then obviously we need to know that we're being manipulated and and made to feel numb to these types of situations. That's why we don't really have a public outcry. Tony, think back to your time, your era, when uh, the one of the same types of situations happened with Boyd Brown. It's in the paper. I mean, like there was no real conviction of the officer, and if there was, it was hidden. He probably was put on desk duty, out of sight, out of mind. We never knew he was an officer. He probably retired like long after I got old and or came of age and moved to Beaumont. You know what
Well,
I'm saying?
yeah, true enough. Because back then, those days, well, that's not that. Wait a minute, what you trying to say? I'm old.
No, I
But
know
back in
you.
those days in the '70s, that wasn't video. That wasn't
Right,
videos. Okay,
right,
we didn't
right,
have videos.
right.
Cameras and iPhones, and so now it's obvious
It's
that they've been
prevalent.
doing this. Right, this been
Yeah,
going on for a very long time,
very long
and
time.
and it's still allowing it to get by.
Correct,
And
correct.
that is something that need to be, that the city needs to have an outburst. The community needs
Man,
to have
I
an
totally
outburst about
agree.
this.
Because and just think about it.
Now you
If
looking at
the
it, your eyes ain't gonna lie to you.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if you look at the entire video, the
Yeah.
hour plus
You
long
got
video.
yeah, you got a man walking in the jailhouse
Right. Being
and
thrown and tossed about.
walked in and
Yeah,
then never walked again.
right, right.
So I'm pretty
Right.
sure that the
And
city.
mind you, not to mention y'all, listeners and viewers, the same officer you see in the video initially um, is also the same officer that, after paralyzing Mr. Shaw, took Mr. Shaw to the hospital, then turned around and brought Mr. Shaw back to the Jefferson County Correction Facility. Um, and even after, he pled for his life in Jefferson County um, facilities about him being paralyzed. Um, there's this because we have to understand that that video, according to what was told to us, the first time he was brought there, he wasn't accepted, and then he went to the emergency room, got cleared by a doctor, and then came back, and then he was accepted, right?
Right.
Because he was bruised or beaten up, look bruised or beaten up, right? Is that what? That's
Right.
if I'm mistaken, let me know in the comments, somebody, if you were following this as much as I was following things, not just things that were put in the news, but things that came out of people's mouths, right? And so, um, allegedly, he was brought to the emergency room and cleared by the emergency room. We need to see the video from the officer that uh, and the vehicle that approached Mr. Shaw initially. We need to see and hear the video of the officer and all officers that responded to the call. We need to hear the audio and video of the vehicle in transport to and transport from import and transport to Jefferson County. And if I'm not mistaken, y'all, this is the same man or the same officer that transported Mr. Shaw to the emergency room after he was paralyzed. Now, I could be mistaken. I could be mistaken. But it was somebody who else's video of an official capacity, whether it's EMS or whomever. We need their video of transporting Mr. Shaw after he was paralyzed and left to lay there for X amount of hours in his own feces and urine because now he could no longer control his extremities as well as his interns. So yeah, this video is just the surface of the entire story. It's just like the scab of it. It's not going to tell you why Mr. Shaw was combative once he got to the facility. If I'm intoxicated, I'm not going to be as combative, Tony. I'm intoxicated. I'm feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you piss me off, you done said or you done done some shit that done aggravated the hell out of me. Now I don't have no respect for you or the badge that you wear because you treat me less than the human that I am. Because I'm intoxicated? No, man. No, that it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And I'm quite sure there's many individuals like me or not like me that feels the same.
All right, Chris, let's move on to your next topic, my brother.
Oh, okay, okay. Because not yet, man, not yet. Because this case is very tedious, man. Because it didn't just happen on again. It didn't just happen on the video, right? So we saw a police officer with his thumb in Mr. Shaw's neck. We saw a correction officer with his the palm of his hand against Mr. Shaw's chest at the same time, right before he kicked.
Right.
Now, if I got my thumb in your neck, Tony, and if anybody else was looking at Mr. Shaw when he came in, he spoke to this lady, he spoke to the lady that was like right there, and his face was like, "Please help me." Even when the people outside picked him up, it looked as if he was pleading for his life, like, "Please, somebody help me! This dude is whipping my ass for no reason because I got a fly mouth and he can't take it." But yeah, so that video doesn't take us to the courtroom, right?
Right.
It doesn't take us to the grand jury that indicted Mr. Shaw on assault to a peace officer. And get this. They couldn't have presented this video as evidence to the grand jury for an indictment because guess whose custody it was in? Yours truly, your sheriff. It was in your sheriff's custody. And she refused to let Beaumont Police Department confiscate that or acquire that because of same shit we saw that happened at the news. That was the only piece of information that you was going to show to the grand jury of saying, oh, you assaulted him. And the first time that you threw him on the ground, I saw when you put your leg in front of him and landed on him. So it wasn't the first time, and then you said you slipped. Bullshit.
So I didn't see that part of the video. I didn't see that part. Matter of fact, I didn't see 90% of it. I just saw the part where he was handcuffed on the wall, and the officer took him and dumped him
Right,
on
of
the
course.
floor.
That
Right.
was the narrative.
That was more than I wanted to see. That
Right.
was more than I wanted to
Of course.
see right
But
there.
that's
That was
still the
enough.
narrative. That's still the narrative that the media and several others who want to who want to control and create the narrative, who want to move and sway your emotions. You know what I'm saying?
So
They
what?
only give you a bit and piece of it.
Okay, so how did the county decide to release it? What happened?
Um,
Because they wouldn't release it. Remember? Because
eventually,
The Texas
correct.
Rangers must have gotten hold to it, right?
The Texas Rangers, from what I gathered, had already viewed it, but it wasn't released to no one's. It wasn't released to anybody outside of viewing uh, uh, to include as evidence or include as their video uh, or given to anybody to use, with the exception of viewing it at the sheriff's office.
Mhm.
It's her property. It's hers, and that's what she chose to do with it. Especially after Mr. Shaw um, resolved all of felony accusations. It was, I think, better yet, I know that it was because of the the ending of the cases for Mr. Shaw as far as like felony charges. Um, so kudos to my sheriff for that. That's like, to me, that's like a, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm thinking about it in the back of my, like, hold on, if I get this to, no, I'm not gonna give it to nobody. I'm not gonna give it to nobody. And even when the NAACP um subpoenaed the video from her office. That was a discussion made with the NAACP legal. I'm not NAACP legal. I'm just NAACP. I am a committee member and a Dupe member, and I move in the parameters that that I know. That I'm
Okay, my next question would be now who does that Christopher Shaw is suing the city,
That's what we hear.
not the
But
county, the city.
but that's what we hear. But if you, I mean, if I'm a, and this is just me, thinking about all of the entities involved, right?
Hmm.
If I'm in the middle of a car wreck, right? Um, I want everybody's insurance that's behind me because everybody behind me hit me. Even if you hit three cars behind me, you still hit me, and
Hmm.
I want your insurance because that's how your insurance is going to ask for it. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So that's pretty much how this should be for us, or in this particular situation.
Okay. Well, you got it.
Yeah, yeah. So aside from that, I do want people to know that also in the release of this video, the uh, Mr. Christopher Shaw had to plea as guilt to not face 25 years. Also, let me read this. Let me read this. This is on Instagram, yo. Like, so it says, 41-year-old black man Christopher Shaw was assaulted and paralyzed by Beaumont police officer James Thomas Gillen, while in custody at Jefferson County Correctional Facility. Shocking news surveillance footage shows an officer choking the handcuffed Shaw and then body slamming him onto the concrete floor and breaking his neck, paralyzing him from chest down. Shaw is represented by National Civil Rights Attorney Chance Lynch and renowned National Civil Rights Attorneys Harry Daniels and Ben Crump. Jefferson County Sheriff Zena Stevens released the surveillance video footage after Shaw resolved all pending felony matters. The statement reads as follows: while the district attorney has authority to allow Mr. Shaw to enter a no contest plea that does not admit guilt, he refused to allow Mr. Shaw to exercise his constitutional right. Um, Instead, Mr. Shaw was threatened with 20 plus years behind bars despite being paralyzed by Beaumont police officer James Thomas Gillen. Considering his current condition, Mr. Shaw felt that it was in his best interest and life sustaining interest, might I add, to receive a deferred prosecution sentence, which will eventually result in all charges being dismissed completely. Let us be clear, we firmly believe that our client did not make any unlawful contact with the officer. What the video makes absolutely clear, however, is that Officer Gillen not only assaulted Christopher Shaw while he was handcuffed and in custody of Jefferson County Correctional and in Jefferson County jurisdiction. He was outside of his jurisdiction. He was outside of his authority. Gillen was outside of his authority. Again, he choked him, slammed him onto the concrete, broke his neck in several places, and paralyzed him for the rest of his life. Those are the facts, and they are both undeniable and inconclusive. Officer Gillen should be prosecuted immediately, and everyone involved should be held liable for the severe and life-altering injuries Christopher Shaw sustained via Candace Matthews, Harry Daniels, and all attorneys representing Christopher Shaw.
Sad, sad, sad story. Sad, sad. Well, Chris, I'm gonna run. Y'all have a good show.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you for coming on. Hopping on to the next topic, especially after we I guess like segue into something. Let's please switch that because I don't want to convey any aggressive or overly exciting energy. I just want to make sure that you all are informed and engage how you shall engage in this conversation, not only by a narrative that our community or certain members of our community are trying to relate or convey or narrate. Find out the facts. You know what I'm saying? Make sure that the whole story fits together and is justifiable before we make a thorough judgment. Again, like from the jump, I knew something wasn't right. Um, we talked about it. It didn't seem, logical that an intoxicated man can walk into Jefferson County Correctional Facility, arrested by Beaumont police officers, and paralyzed. Not only was he paralyzed, but his family could not find him for almost 3 days before they knew where he was and or what had happened. Mind you, by this time he had undergone emergency surgeries to at least alleviate some of the swelling on his body that happened while he laid in Jefferson County, neglected by the medical uh, uh, contract or whoever was in that facility had that medical that contract. I think they too, or somebody that should be targeted for a lawsuit or something of that nature. So, um, yeah, I just know that there are several different parties that should be involved, and that's just to answer Tony's question about him suing the city. I think it should be several entities and or individuals involved that you know that should suffer for or pay restitution for what he has to deal with for the rest of his life. Okay, so now that I done calmed down just a little bit, let me get to these. Let's go to something like our county and our state constitution and charter amendments. So, in the city of Beaumont, we had a few city charter amendments, right? And they were Proposition A, B, C, D, and E. So on the 7th of this month, we had an election. And in the city of Beaumont, Proposition A did not pass. Um, it did not pass. It was 46.41% for and 53.59% against. Um, and if you remember what that proposition was, um, just know it didn't pass. Which, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the proposition to to do the term limits, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, Proposition B, that passed 85.28%. For I think that was to remove some redundancies, as well as remove, um, you know, some other things. I did have a copy of the propositions, but I didn't print it back up. So I do apologize about that. But you can always go to jeffersoncountytexas.com or .gov actually, and pull up those county election results, and they're definitely there uh, for your viewing. You could also pull up the sample ballot, which is what I was trying to do earlier, but it wasn't coming up. But yeah, so those election proposition, what was it? C. Alexa, cancel. I let y'all know they be listening to everything. So Proposition C again, that was for 83.47% for, 16.53% against. Proposition D, that did also pass 85% to 14% against. Proposition E again, and I think all of these propositions were to remove redundancies and whatnot out of the Constitution, input particular languages, make the city charter more in line with federal and state law, uh, but not remove the liberties and home rule from our city charter. So do remember that did not happen. So just to keep you abreast on your city charter, let's move to the state proposition. Of course, there were quite a few state propositions that were on our November 7th ballot. Some of those, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say all of those passed. Yeah, from the looks of it, all of those passed. Proposition 1 was for 85%. 14% against. Um, Proposition 2, State Proposition 2, 67%, it passed. Proposition 3, 73%, it passed. Proposition 4, 85%, it passed. Proposition 5, 67, I'm sorry, 64%, that also passed. State Proposition 6, it passed. 7 passed. State Proposition 8 passed. State Proposition 9 passed. And I know uh, um, we were looking at maybe 8, 9, 11. Uh, but yeah, all of the state propositions passed with the exception of State Proposition 12. 56.44% said no. And State Proposition 13, 59.82% said no. Um, State Proposition 14, 75% of the electorate said yes. Again, there was a county election for emergency surgery service districts, number three, number four, and the creation of number five. 77.72% of but I'm sorry, of Jefferson County Emergency Service District voted for it. And again, in the ballot that said the creation of. So that's a new emergency service district that's created within the Jefferson County districts. Uh, so that's your state and your city elections. Now let's jump into some random news about Beaumont. Um, so I was reading, just pandering through, and there was um, a a survey. I'm assuming, and it's probably done by Yelp because most of surveys are handled by Yelp nowadays. But yeah, so it says the highest rated Southern restaurants in Beaumont, Texas, according to Yelp. So they did I guess like a random, a random little viewing of some of the restaurants here, and some of them I've eaten at. And some of them I probably wouldn't have put in the top six or in the six that they included. And I probably would not have number one as number one. But I will say that they all pretty much have some type of dish that's pretty good. Um, but yeah, so here's the list, and tell me what you think. Okay, so number six, they have cheddar scratch chicken, rating of 2.5 out of 5, 150, 154 reviews. Um, of course, we know there is a new restaurant in downtown Beaumont by the previous and or past owners of Cheddar's Scratch Chicken Kitchen. I'm sorry, Scratch Kitchen, uh, downtown Beaumont. Very nice venue. I have not been able to be made privy to the entire menu just yet, but I will say Cheddar's do have some items on the menu that's pretty good. So I don't know. I don't know why they're I don't know why they're number six. But number five was very funny to me. It's Cracker Barrel Old School Country Store, rating of 2.5 out of 5, 127 reviews. That was funny to me because like I've had better breakfast at Waffle House for real. I've had better fried chicken at Popeyes. Hell, I've had better fried chicken at churches. So just to let that be said, yeah, that was just funny to me that Cracker Barrel was number five. Number four, I think should have been or could have been higher. Jones Old Fashioned Sausage and Restaurant, which is now located on Fourth Street, reopened. Um, I think they should be definitely up there because I know I eat there more often than a little bit. So yeah, go check them out. They're over on 4th Street now. They used to be on Finette, uh, across from um, Beaumont United. So yeah, uh, number three was Sam Southern Eatery, and I was like, for real? I was like, oh no, no, no. Now don't get me wrong. I know the owner of both Jones's and Sam Southern Eatery, so it's not biased. It's just that I prefer I prefer seasoned food, and not saying that Jones isn't seasoned. I just prefer well seasoned food, palate pleasing food, right? And Sam Southern Eatery has some very pleasing dishes, but I remember leaving certain things on the plate. Whereas if I leave something on the plate from Jones's, um, that's because I'm full and I can't finish it. Number two was Richard's Cafe. Now, Richard's Cafe is pretty good. I will say they are pretty good. I wouldn't say, well, then again, this is Yo. So I wouldn't say I would put them at number two, but I would really like to see how they're rating, doing these ratings, so that I could grade everybody proper, right? But their rating is 4.5 out of 573 reviews. Um, Soul food, Southern American traditional, they come in at number two. Number one is Rockin' A Cafe. Now, I don't know if you've ever eaten from catered, had an event catered from Rockin' A, but I would definitely say take Rockin' A Cafe, Restarts Cafe, and Jones's, and put them three together in a a catering event or something. Man, please, if y'all do that, invite me. Let me know. Invite me. Let me know. Absolutely. So, next thing we want to talk about, y'all, is our um, things that's happening in the nation. Of course, we've seen, the response to and from different individuals who support Israel, who support Hamas, or who support Palestine. you know, however, whatever. A lot of people in our community, we don't feel. Some of us don't feel that any of that has to do with anything about us or our community. But I definitely want us to know that, um, however the United States reacts affects us 100% in and out of our community. We have several members that are part of our militaries. We have several individuals that are in foreign lands that serve certain purposes, whether it be religious and or other peacekeeping missions and different things like that. So we definitely want to remain uh, just conscious and cognizant of what's actually going on around us. So um, we did have a guest, some guests that were to be on, but we'll definitely have them on not next Thursday, but Thursday after next. We're about to wrap up here shortly, but in the meantime, I definitely want you all to please get used to seeing my face. It'll change throughout the season, but I'm looking forward to having more detailed and engaging conversations with our listeners and our viewers here at the Roundtable Talk through the Knowledge is Power podcast. So without further ado, I wish you all good night. God bless.